I used to think nothing would ever change between us. It was a comforting thought, in a way, like the steady rhythm of waves against the hull of a boat. Predictable. Safe. But now, standing barefoot on the wooden dock with the late afternoon, sun brushing gold across the lake, I felt the first shift beneath the surface. Something was different, though I couldn't name it yet. Liam hoisted a duffel bag over his shoulder like it weighed nothing, the muscles in his arms flexing just enough to make my stomach twist. He grinned at me, his brown curls wine-tossed and sun-kissed like always. "You ready to become one with the lake, Captain?" I forced a chuckle and nudged his shoulder with mine. "Only if you promise not to capsize us like last year." "No." "Promises." He winked and started walking toward the sailboat we'd borrowed from his uncle, the same one we'd taken out every summer for the past 4 years. This was our tradition, a weekend sailing trip before fall kicked in, just the two of us, away from work, the city, and the noise, a chance to breathe, reset, pretend for a little, while that we were still college kids with sand in our shoes and no responsibilities weighing us down. But this year felt different, maybe because I wasn't the same. I watched him climb aboard, his movements confident and practiced. Liam always looked at home on the water. I, on the other hand, looked for excuses to stay behind just a few seconds longer. My pulse fluttered as I glanced at his back, the way his shirt clung lightly to his shoulder blades, damp from the heat. I swallowed hard and looked away. I wasn't supposed to feel this way. About him. He was my best friend, straight, and so impossibly Liam, fearless, charming, reckless in the way only people who've never had their hearts broken can be. I climbed in after him, the boat rocking slightly beneath my feet. "Food's in the cooler, and I packed your ridiculous peanut butter protein bars," he laughed. "You mean my life-sustaining energy source? You mean your chalk-flavored crime against nature?" He shot me a playful glare, and I grinned despite myself. These small moments, his laughter, the way he always waited to push off until I was settled, the way his eyes softened when they landed on mine, they were dangerous, addicting. The boat drifted out as he untied the rope, and I felt that familiar jolt of freedom as the wind caught the sail. This was supposed to be a break, a chance to relax. But as I sat beside him, the lake stretching out before us like some vast unknown, I knew this trip would change everything. I just didn't know how yet. Liam and I met 6 years ago during freshman orientation, when he stole my seat in Intro to Environmental Science, and then had the audacity to flirt with the TA to cover for it. I was annoyed, amused, and maybe a little intrigued. Somehow that one dumb moment spiraled into us being inseparable. Classes together, late-night pizza runs, crashing each other's family holidays when things at home got weird. He was the kind of person who pulled people in like gravity, effortlessly charismatic, always laughing too loud, always chasing something just out of reach. And I was the quieter one, the observer, the one who remembered things like how he liked his coffee too sweet, or how he hummed under his breath when he was anxious. We balanced each other out. That's what we always said. "This view never gets old," Liam said now, leaning back, with one leg propped on the edge of the boat, sunglasses perched crookedly on his nose. The water around us shimmered under the afternoon sun, and the sail snapped gently above our heads. "Do you remember that time we tried to cook hot dogs, on that sad excuse for a grill, and the fire department showed up?" I snorted. "Yeah, you tried to use vodka as lighter fluid." He grinned like he was proud of it. "Innovative, resourceful, stupid, memorable." I shook my head, smiling in spite of myself. This was always how it was with us. Easy, comfortable, too comfortable maybe. We were only a few hours into the trip when I realized something was off. Liam crouched down to unzip one of the gear bags and froze. Don't hate me. That's never a good start." I walked over, peering inside. There was one sleeping bag. One. You had one job, I muttered, but my voice was more amused than annoyed. He held up both hands. I thought I packed. Both, I swear. But you know I suck at the packing part. You mean the only part you were responsible for? He laughed and shrugged. We can double up. We've done worse. My brain stalled for a full 2 seconds. Double up. I managed a casual nod, even as heat prickled at the back of my neck. Sure, no big deal. We had done worse. Slept back to back on a floor during a ski trip, shared cramped tents, passed out on the same couch after one too many drinks. But this time felt different. The sleeping bag was narrow. The air between us already felt tight. As he went back to sorting supplies, I caught myself watching the way his shirt lifted slightly when he reached up. The slight curve of his waist, the familiar mole on the side of his neck. It was stupid how I noticed things like that. How I remembered the way he looked after a swim, droplets clinging to his lashes, or how his voice dropped when he was tired. I turned away quickly, pretending to check the cooler. Later, as we drifted closer to the center of the lake, he handed me a soda and let his arm brush against mine, just for a second. But I felt it, sharp, electric, like a current I couldn't shake. He didn't move away. "You've been quiet today," he said after a beat. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just thinking." "Dangerous." I smiled faintly. "You should try it sometime." He leaned back again, eyes on the sky. "Nah, I like being the dumb one." "You're not dumb." He glanced at me, something unreadable passing between us before he looked away. Just a flicker, barely a pause. But I felt it. The wind picked up then, and I busied myself adjusting the sail, needing something, anything, to focus on. Liam hummed a tune I didn't recognize, his fingers tapping against the wooden edge of the boat. I listened, heart skimming just beneath the surface, afraid of what might happen if I let it rise too far. I knew I was playing a dangerous game. But for now, I told myself this was enough. Him, me, the open water, and a sleeping bag too small for. The space I needed to keep my heart safe. By nightfall, the lake had turned glassy, reflecting the last streaks of lavender and burnt orange across the sky. We anchored near a quiet cove, tucked between two rocky outcroppings where the trees leaned over the water, like they were eavesdropping on our silence. Liam lit the small lantern we'd brought and glanced around. "No signal out here, huh?" "Nope." I didn't look up from where I was coiling the rope. Just us and the loons. Spooky. "You're not going to confess to murder, are you?" he teased. I gave a small laugh. I could confess something, I thought. But it'd scare you more than murder. Dinner was easy. Canned chili warmed on a portable burner, eaten straight out of the pot with 2 spoons. It tasted like campfires and cheap college nights, and something about that made my chest ache. The sky darkened. Crickets started chirping. Everything slowed down. Liam stretched his arms behind his head, lounging back against the side of the boat. "Man, this is what I needed. No stress, just water and stars and your pretty face." My hand jerked, spoon clanking against the pot. "What?" he grinned, cocky and effortless. "Relax, I'm kidding, mostly." "Mostly." I laughed weakly and tried not to read too much into it, but my heart had already picked up speed, thudding too hard in my chest. I told myself he was joking. He always joked like that. Flirty, harmless. He didn't mean it the way I wanted him to. We cleaned up in silence, the lantern casting a soft glow around us. Then came the part I'd been dreading. The sleeping bag. Liam unzipped it fully and laid it out across the deck like a makeshift bed, then tossed a thin blanket on top. "It's gonna be tight," he said, glancing at me. "But at least we won't freeze." "Right. Cozy." My voice came out thinner than I wanted it to. He pulled off his shirt, revealing a smooth expanse of tanned skin and the faint trail of hair leading down from his navel. I turned sharply and busied myself with folding. Towels, my throat suddenly dry. This was fine, I could do this. We'd shared worse spaces. I'd just lie still. Pretend I wasn't burning from the inside out. When I finally joined him, he was already lying down, one arm behind his head, his eyes closed. The lantern flickered. Everything smelled like pine and lake water and a hint of his cologne. I slid in beside him carefully, keeping my body stiff, my hands tucked close to my chest. Our arms brushed, my skin buzzed. "You okay?" he murmured, eyes still closed. "Yeah," I whispered. "Just thinking. Still dangerous." We both laughed quietly, the sound softer than usual. Different. Minutes passed. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't easy either. My heart refused to calm down. Then he turned toward me, shifting onto his side. His knee bumped mine, beneath the blanket. He didn't move it. "Can I ask you something?" His voice was low, hesitant. "Yeah?" "Have I been weird lately?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. You've seemed a little off. And I keep thinking, maybe I said something or crossed a line." "You crossed every line," I wanted to say, "just by being you." I swallowed. "You haven't done anything wrong." He looked at me for a long moment, eyes searching my face. "I don't want to mess this up, you know. Us." The words hit like a punch to the gut, because he was right. This was delicate. One wrong move, and I'd lose the one person who made everything else feel bearable. "I know," I said quietly. "Neither do I." The silence stretched. Our knees still touched. The warmth from his body bled into mine, and I couldn't tell where his heat ended and mine began. "I like this," he said eventually. "Just being out here, with you." I looked at him. His expression was open, unguarded. "Yeah," I breathed. "Me too." Another beat passed. Then, his hand brushed mine under the blanket. Barely a touch. I froze. He didn't pull away. I turned slightly to face him. Our noses were close now. Too close. His breath hitched. "You ever think about stuff?" he asked. His voice was barely audible. My heart was a drumbeat in my ears. "What kind of stuff?" He licked his lips. "Just, like, if things were different." My pulse stuttered. "Different how?" He didn't answer right away. His fingers slid against mine, tentative. "You ever think about what it'd be like if I wasn't so straight?" The world tilted. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. Instead, I stared at him, and he stared back, something raw and real flickering in his eyes. For a moment, the boat, the lake, the years of pretending, everything dropped away. "You're not asking that for no reason," I said finally. He didn't deny it, just whispered, "No, I'm not." And there it was. The shift. The crack in everything we'd carefully kept platonic. I didn't know where it would lead. I didn't know if it would break us. But his hand found mine fully now. Fingers curling, gently, and for the first time in years, I didn't pull away. I held on. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay next to Liam, wide awake, replaying every word, every glance, every inch of space between us that had disappeared so easily. Too easily. His fingers had stayed laced with mine under the blanket. Not tight, not demanding. Just there, present, quiet. Like a truth that didn't know how to speak itself aloud. He'd eventually drifted off, soft breaths brushing the curve of my shoulder, but I stayed still and listened to the water lap gently against the hull. The moon shifted across the sky. My heart never slowed. I kept thinking, what did he mean? If I wasn't so straight, what was that? A doorway he'd cracked open just to see if I'd step through. A confession wrapped in deniability. Or was it just another half-joke he'd regret in the morning? The sky started to pale by the time he stirred again, his lashes fluttering, breath catching. He blinked blearily at me, then frowned. "You didn't sleep." I shook my head. "Why?" "I couldn't." He watched me. I felt the weight of it in my chest. "Is it because of what I said?" he asked. I hesitated. "Partly." Liam rolled onto his side to face me, propping his head on his hand. His fingers let go of mine only to rest lightly on my arm. He didn't look away. "Then let's talk about it," he said. "Please." I sat up, running a hand through my hair. "You can't just say stuff like that, Liam, and then fall asleep. Like it's nothing." I didn't think it was nothing. He pushed himself up slowly. "That's why I said it." "Okay. So what was it then? What were you trying to tell me?" He opened his mouth, closed it, looked away for the first time. I don't know how to say it. I laughed bitterly. "Yeah, welcome to my entire life." He flinched like I'd hit him. I sighed, trying to calm the burn in my throat. "Sorry, that wasn't fair." "No, it's okay," he said softly. "I probably deserve that." Silence swelled again. Then he asked, "How long?" I looked up at him. "How long what?" "How long have you felt this way?" There it was. No turning back now. I looked out at the water, breath fogging in, the morning chill. Years, I think. At first I didn't know what it was. I just liked being around you, more than I should. I thought it would pass, that it was a phase. But then you'd do something. Laugh at one of my dumb jokes, touch my shoulder for no reason, call me in the middle of the night just to talk, and I'd feel everything all over again. Every time. He was quiet. I forced myself to keep going, and I tried to ignore it. I told myself you were straight, that it wasn't worth ruining what we had, so I buried it. I got good at pretending. You made it easy with the way you flirted, but never meant it. I told myself I was imagining things. His voice was barely a whisper. You weren't. That froze me. I turned toward him. What? He met my eyes, his own glassy with something unspoken. You weren't imagining it. I didn't mean to. But I think I've been feeling something too. For a while now. My breath caught. Liam exhaled, rubbing his hands over his face. I've been so goddamn confused. I've never been into guys. Never thought of myself that way. But with you, it's different. You're different. You make everything feel safe, real. And sometimes when we're together, I catch myself wanting to reach for you, to say things I don't even know how to say. My chest cracked open. I didn't know if it was just comfort, he continued, voice shaking, or if I was projecting something. But last night, lying next to you, I realized it wasn't going away. I stared at him, every nerve ending alive, aching. So, what are you saying? He looked at me like I was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. I think I'm in love with you, he said. The words hit me like a wave, knocking the air from my lungs, the ground from beneath my feet. Liam rushed to add, I don't know what that means yet. I don't have all the answers. I don't even know who that makes me, but I know I'm not lying. I've never been more sure of something in my life. Tears blurred my vision. I laughed wetly. God, you suck. He blinked. What? I shook, my head smiling through it. You waited until we were stuck on a boat in the middle of nowhere to tell me that. His grin cracked wide and unguarded. Perfect timing, right? I leaned in before I could stop myself. The kiss wasn't dramatic. It didn't explode like fireworks. It wasn't rough or desperate. It was soft. It was real. His lips brushed mine gently, uncertain at first. Testing. Then again deeper this time, with a quiet kind of wonder, like he was tasting something he'd never let himself want before. His hands cupped my jaw, trembling just slightly. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine, eyes closed. "I don't want to lose you," he whispered. "You won't," I said. "Not now. Not after this." He breathed out a shaky laugh. "Promise?" I nodded. "Promise." We stayed like that, forehead to forehead, in the quiet light of morning. The sun was just starting to rise, casting gold over the water. Everything smelled like dew and pine and the start of something new. He kissed me again, slower this time, like he meant it. Like he was trying to memorize the shape of this moment. And I let him, because for the first time, there was nothing left to hide. I think we stayed like that for a full hour, wrapped in each other's arms, knees tucked together beneath the blanket, faces hidden against shoulders like we could disappear from everything except this. Liam's hands hadn't left me. Not once. They kept moving, gently, his fingers curling around mine, brushing against my cheek, tracing lazy shapes on the inside of my wrist, like he was making sure I was still there, still real. "You're warm," he mumbled, voice low and drowsy against my collarbone. "You're clingy," I murmured back. He snorted, tightening his arms around my waist. "You love it." "Unfortunately," I said with a smile I couldn't stop. His lips ghosted over my neck. "So, I guess we're that kind of friends now?" I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the kind that makes out at sunrise on a boat after years of unresolved tension and unspoken feelings?" "Exactly," he grinned. I leaned back just enough to meet his eyes. "You sure you're okay with this? With me?" His expression softened. "I'm not scared of you. I'm just scared of how easy this feels. Like maybe it should be harder. More complicated. It might get harder," I said honestly. "People might not get it. You might not always feel sure." "I don't care what they think," he said. "And yeah, I'll probably get confused sometimes. But when I woke up this morning and saw you still awake, watching me like that, like I mattered more than the sunrise, I knew I couldn't pretend anymore." I felt something tighten in my throat. "You mattered to me before any of this. That's not new." He smiled, then leaned in and kissed me again. Quick this time, like he couldn't help himself. "I always thought you'd be the one to say it first," I admitted. "I always thought I didn't have the right." A pause. Then he said, "So what happens now?" I let the question hang between us. The air was warming around us, but the breeze still carried that clean, early morning scent of pine and water and change. "Well," I said thoughtfully, "we're still on this boat for another 2 days." "Right," he said, mock serious. "Which means I've got 48 hours to keep kissing you without anyone interrupting. And after that?" He looked out over the lake, the rising sun painting soft gold on his skin. "After that, I think I want to keep figuring this out with you, even if it's messy, even if we get seasick on the way back," he laughed. "Especially then." I grinned, and he bumped his forehead against mine. "I don't know what this makes me," he said after a pause. "I don't have a label for it yet." "You don't need one," I replied. "You just need to be honest with me, with yourself." He nodded slowly. "I can do that. I want to do that." I shifted beside him, our shoulders brushing. "So, no more late-night half-confessions disguised as jokes?" he groaned. "That was one time. Liam, you literally said, if I wasn't so straight right before falling asleep like it was a bedtime story. I panicked!" We both burst out laughing, and it felt so good, so light. like the ache in my chest that I'd been carrying for years had cracked open and let something warm take root. Then he reached over, his fingers brushing against mine again, and laced them together without hesitation this time. "We're going to figure this out," he said. "Yeah? Yeah." He leaned in and kissed the corner of my mouth. "Because I've already wasted enough time being afraid of something that feels this right." And I believed him. Every word. The sun had fully crested the treetops now, turning the lake into a sheet of molten light. The boat rocked gently beneath us. And for the first time in a long, long while, I wasn't thinking about what could go wrong. I was thinking about us, what we could be, what we already were, and where this strange, beautiful journey might take us next. By the time we pulled back into the marina 2 days later, the sky had shifted from cloudless blue to a watercolor haze of gold and soft gray. The wind had died down, the lake calm as glass, and everything felt slower, like the world was catching its breath with us. Liam jumped onto the dock first, reaching out to help me steady the boat. His grip was firm, familiar, warm in a way it hadn't been before. Our fingers lingered a beat longer than necessary. No one was watching. Still, he didn't let go. "You okay?" he asked as I climbed up beside him, brushing off my jeans. "Yeah," I said, looking at the boat, at the sunburned wood and tangled ropes and the deck where everything had changed. "Weirdly okay." He smiled, that same lopsided grin I'd fallen for long before I even knew I had. "Good, 'cause I was thinking, maybe this doesn't end here." I glanced at him, heart tightening. "I mean," he went on, a little flustered now, "we go back to our lives, and it's easy to pretend nothing happened. But I don't want to pretend anymore. Not after this." I nodded slowly. "Me either." There was a small bench near the edge of the dock. We sat, knees knocking gently, the lake stretching out before us in silent promise. Liam dug into the pocket of his jacket and pulled out something small, folded and a little crumpled. My breath caught when I recognized it. The tiny paper sailboat I'd made on our first night out. I'd left it on the dash of the cabin, not even thinking he'd noticed. "You kept this?" He shrugged. "You made it, and I thought it was kind of perfect." I turned it over in my palm. There was a faint crease in one corner, and someone, him, had written something on the sail. "Let's not drift apart." I swallowed hard. "It's not, like, poetic or anything," he added quickly, scratching the back of his neck. "I just wanted to remember this. Us. Here." I looked at him, really looked, and said, "Then don't let go." So he didn't. His hand found mine again, fitting easily like it was always supposed to be there. We sat like that, side by side, saying nothing for a while, just watching the water and the sky shift above it. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud, but it was real. And when Liam leaned his head on my shoulder, letting out a soft sigh like he'd finally exhaled years of pretending, I rested mine against his too. "We're gonna figure this out," he said, voice low. "Yeah," I whispered back. "We will," he nudged me gently. "Think they'll be shocked? Your brother's definitely going to drop something expensive." He laughed. "That's fair." I tilted my head toward him. "But let's not tell anyone just yet. Let's keep this ours. Just a little longer." His thumb rubbed across the back of my hand, slow and thoughtful. "Ours," he echoed. "I like that." As the sky dimmed into the soft gray of dusk, and the first stars began blinking to life, I felt the ache of what we were leaving behind, but also the spark of something just beginning, a promise made in quiet moments and shy smiles and trembling fingers, a journey not mapped, but chosen. And I knew deep in my chest that we weren't going back to who we were before. We were charting new waters now, together.